Hey everyone, it's Joe Waxman, and I'm here with astrologer Jean-marc Pierson. I've known Jean-marc for a few years through YouTube, or I'm sorry, through Facebook. Through Facebook, and he's a very experienced and great astrologer. I've had a reading with him. Um, he has his own group that has a lot of people, and he's pretty popular. So, hi Jean-marc, how are you?
Hi, hi Joe. Hi everyone. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah. I'm really glad you said yes to join me here. And so, Jean-marc, I'm interested to hear about your journey through astrology. How did it start for you? And then just tell your story about your
Yeah.
astrology.
Well, I'll start before it started, actually. I was thinking of what I should say that's important. And actually, my journey started with psychology.
Uh-huh.
And I remember when I was a teenager, 15-year-old, and thinking, how do you save the world? And all these things that are perfectly normal to believe you can do when you're a teenager, if you have a bit of
Mm-hmm.
idealism. And I was thinking some things which I still think nowadays, but maybe in a more nuanced way, that actually it was psychology, the way to understand what's going on within people's heads or hearts in order to, that would explain the suffering and the chaos and whatever needs to be sorted, if anything needs to be sorted. So I have a degree in psychology. I've studied psychology 3 years at university.
Huh.
At the same time, I was struggling with depression. So I did 3 years. And well, struggling with depression, that means you're really, it's not just intellectual. You are really dealing with the real thing because you have your own mind, your own psyche to sort out, which is not an easy thing. And that's why at some point I found studying at university very useful, very interesting, but there is only half of what you need when you're tackling your own psyche, because you understand, you have intellectual understanding, but they don't give you the tools to develop the strengths and your own strengths, and it's not a place to do therapy. And it's not a place where you're given the tools to find your own balance. So I carry on my own journey. Then I worked, I needed to be grounded around my first Saturn return. I needed to be grounded. So I worked in the south of France, in farms, so with big shoes and in contact with the material world. And I started to do storytelling as an artist. I have always, and storytelling is not just stories for children, it's much more than that, because all spiritual traditions, all philosophical traditions have used storytelling, and you have stories, Buddhist stories, Sufi stories, Chinese stories, popular wisdom. You have actually, storytelling is really a major way to study wisdom and even psychology through another way.
Yeah.
So I made the artist for a certain amount of time. Now it's not easy, it's not difficult to convince everyone that living as an artist is rather difficult, and that you, unless you are very lucky and unless you know how to promote yourself and know the right people, you don't make much money with that.
Right.
And I had always been interested in astrology, more or less from far, but it's a symbolic language. It goes well with psychology, it goes well with storytelling. And one day, struggling to promote myself as a performing artist, I was thinking people need stories that tell the story of their lives. So I went into a bookshop and I bought my first astrology book. And from then on, it becomes an interest that went far, and here I am reading, trying to understand all what Rudyard is explaining in his books and his complicated thinking, and that's fascinating.
Nice.
What can I tell you as well about my I call my website, my page, Astro Stories, precisely because I do the link between storytelling and psychology, storytelling and astrology. Storytelling means that it's a language of the right brain, the holistic language. You know, when you speak with stories or with metaphors, because stories are actually metaphors.
That's exactly the word I was just thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a metaphor that unfolds in time. A story. So that's really a way that speak to people when you explain to them. So you've got this kind of issue. Instead of talking a language which is rather intellectual and you don't really see when you tell the story, bam, if you're spot on, you're spot on, and you know it, the person knows it, and it really speaks to the dimension of ourselves that needs to be activated when you try to understand yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really important to understand, and also because when you can wrap deep wisdom in metaphor and story, then there's always the ability for people to unfold and unpack it, and the more wise or intelligent the person, the deeper they can go into a single story. So it's like it takes care of itself as far as like who's ready to receive what information. You know,
Yes.
an unintelligent person is not going to get much from a story, but a very wise or
I may disagree. I may disagree because a story can be understood by a child.
Yeah, that's intellect, that's or maturity. Okay, I mean it in a different way, but all right.
Yeah, sure, in a different way. I see also what you mean. Of course, the more you have a depth of self-knowledge and understanding, the more you can see and explain all the why and the how and how it connects to our lives.
There are layers. There are many layers, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, because astrology is a language of symbols. So, you know, astrology is a great book of storytelling. You know, you open the book, and that's what fascinated me from the start with astrology. You see, you start and you open the book and you see a picture, and the picture is a ram charging. And you see this picture, and if you look at the picture, it's very often representing like the ram is charging at you. You know, you see and so we say, what's going on? And it's you can understand what it means, and you can also feel directly what the message is, the message of a strong energy focusing and charging and moving forward, and then you can connect that with all situations in your life when you should be like a ram, or when you are like a ram, when you are too much like the ram charging, or like when you are not enough like that, where you bang into the wall, when you break through the obstacles, and it comes to the essential, the fabric of life.
Another word that comes to mind that is often associated with astrology is archetypes.
Yes.
Because I draw on all these parallel archetypes because I did not start in Western astrology. I started, actually, oddly enough, my astrological origins were in nine star key or Japanese astrology.
Oh.
And that's pure archetypes because there's no planets. It's pure archetypes. And Chinese astrology also is pure archetypes. It's different than Western and Vedic, where they use the planets, which is mixed. You know, planets and stars and actual objects. So you deal with pure archetypes. And actually, yin and yang, the Oriental dialectic, was my early beginnings with astrology. So all of that deals with archetypes. So yeah, I'm still trying to work out all the differences there, but yeah.
Yeah, it can be confusing, but it can be enlightening yes, yin and yang, it's very abstract thinking. You know, yin and yang, can you show me yin and yang? Well, whether no, you can't show yin and yang, or you can see them everywhere.
Yeah.
That's and when you can see them everywhere interacting concretely in, you know, when I'm talking, I'm yang, when you're listening, you're yin, and then we swap.
Exactly. And yin and yang is the archetype of two. And,
yes.
you know, and then you get into numbers, which I'm really also interested in. Like, what does number one mean? Like, really, what does number one mean? What does number two mean? What does number three mean? And then you're really pulling apart the archetypes and understanding them in a very deep way.
Yeah. What does mean 5, if I may ask? I was precisely trying to scratch my head at the number 5 the other day.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean, that's a great question. We have 5 fingers.
Yes.
There's a 5-pointed star. 5 is a prime number. It's a very low number, but it's a prime number as opposed to there are much higher prime numbers. We could go on and on. I mean, there's so much. That's one of my long-term ambitions, to really define the numbers and how they relate to the different schools of thought in astrology.
Yeah. That's fabulous. And when you look at flowers, very often you look at flower and you see geometrical forms at the heart of the flower, and sometimes you see 5-pointed stars in the flowers, and you say, looks like up there they are. Sometimes I imagine I don't know what name to give them, if they are, I've said, the elemental forces or the angels or whoever is building all these organic structures and making the flowers with their pencils and and they draw flowers and they make, here we are going to make a 5-pointed star for the gardener to remind it that this exists. Well, that's poetry, what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it certainly is interesting, and it's very, all these things are reflected in nature. Well, that's fascinating. What are some of your insights or perspectives about the astrology of everything that's been going on in this crazy year? I mean, we had some really intense conjunctions starting in January, but then they kept going. April, June.
Yeah, all year long, and we are going to have one more Saturn-Jupiter conjunction.
Right.
Aquarius in December. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. And what I find important to notice is all astrologers with a little bit of knowledge knew that 2020 was going to be a big year with intense transformations and lots of stuff going on. And we were all actually wondering what it might be. But maybe one or two voices here and there talked about a pandemic, because, you know, but there was no consensus. We didn't know what would happen. We didn't know if it would be a pandemic, if it would be an international political crisis, which is also happening. We didn't really know what was happening. And it's so easy. Once we were in the middle of the pandemic, there were plenty of people who were really proud to demonstrate that it was a pandemic, and that each time it happens with Pluto and Saturn, there was a pandemic. But it would have been great to say it beforehand. And I think maybe one or two talked about pandemics, but it was as a possibility among others. So.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, I don't think we can definitively predict the future, because I think it's all very spontaneous. I think it's happening just there's a framework that it has to fit into, obviously, with the stars, the astrology, the planets. But it can happen, it can manifest in different ways, in unique ways, just as there's no two snowflakes alike. There's every time, everything that's happening is happening very spontaneously within a framework. So it's like we can talk about possibilities, but we cannot talk about certainties.
Exactly. And I really like your metaphor of the snowflake. There are no two snowflakes that are the same.
Yeah.
So there is an element of spontaneity, creativity that happens, and we end up being surprised. And I love what Alan Watts said, a quotation by Alan Watts, who said that the future that is entirely predictable is already the past.
Right.
We need not to know. And I say that as an astrologer, and for a certain time I was thinking, I am an astrologer, I should know better about predictions, and I should study more about predicting, because that's what people want and believe that an astrologer do. And a little bit, to have a general culture, but I'm not interested in knowing the future. I'm interested in psychology and understand, help people and myself know ourselves. And
I don't think it can be done. In fact, who has done it? Really, who has done it yet so far? Even the greatest prophets, astrologers, wise people, oracles have not definitively been able to tell the future. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. You know,
yes.
The best of the best, whoever it was. I mean, it's just not possible to be 100%.
And I believe in free will. As I believe in free will, that means there are things that are not written yet. What I am going to do with my future, well, there maybe, there will be some energies going up, some energies going down, there will be some, like psychic weather forecast, which may be written in advance, maybe some, maybe I'm going to meet some people at some precise time because our souls decided to meet at that time along in another dimension. There can be something like that. But at the same time, whether I do the work or I don't, or whether I choose to turn right or I choose to turn left, and not everything is written. And as we are billions of people, everyone with our little amount of freedom, which can be discussed. Where is our freedom? Maybe some people are not free at all, and maybe some others are more free than others. I don't know, but there is a certain amount of freedom and uncertainty. That's what I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you on that. One of the things I'm curious, and I wanted to ask you about, what is your opinion about like I think a lot of people have talked about the conjunction in Capricorn, but what about the other outer planets, Neptune in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus? How do you think those are affecting the current energies?
Uranus in Taurus. So we say when the planet ingresses in a sign is a moment which is particularly meaningful, when we can notice. And I remember, for me, it was really funny, because when Uranus ingressed in Taurus, I happened to come across an organization which already existed, but it was just at that moment that I learned about them, and they are called Extinction Rebellion. And Extinction Rebellion, so they are ecologists, and they make demonstrations, and they want to take strong action to force governments to tackle climate change. And they say that we are in a moment where we could be in the sixth mass extinction time. That means there are plenty of animal species that disappear every day because of human activity. And so they rebel to protect nature. And that's just Uranus, the rebel, entering Taurus. And that's when I meet these people demonstrating in support of let's take care of the environment, and let's rebel against this society that oppresses and destroys more than oppresses the environment. And what was really amazing is, well, they are not astrologers, or maybe some of them are, but they had banners with bulls' heads.
Huh.
So they had banners with bulls' heads, and for them it meant, you know, that beef, agriculture, farming, and especially beef, are really part of a factor that we should slow down with and eat much less meat, and especially beef, because of the environment. But Uranus in Taurus, and I see the banners with the bulls in the street of London. So I think Uranus now, with all this COVID, and we don't make so much noise about climate change, but hopefully we will hear about it again. All movements. Greta Thunberg, it's also the, I'm not sure I pronounce her name properly, but
Who?
Greta
Greta Thunberg, yeah.
Thunberg, yeah, I'm struggling with, but yeah, it's Uranus in Taurus here. Let's
awareness around environmental issues and animals and those things.
Yeah, that's how I see it. There are certainly other manifestations, but I see that Neptune in Pisces. I'm less sure, but it's normal with Neptune and with Pisces. It's not that obvious.
Do you think, I know, because I'm in Philly and there was a major drug epidemic that happened, that's still happening right now, but it seems like it's been going on for a little while. And so, I mean, Neptune, obviously, and Pisces related to drugs. And maybe it's just because I live in Philly, but is that something more widespread? Do you think drug use has gone up everywhere?
Well, precisely, I don't know. It could be consistent with Neptune and Pisces, yes, right. But I don't follow the news, and beyond the news, I don't study the history of the world and all what's going on closely enough to see if there are more drugs than there was before Neptune came into Pisces. That's a problem here. And that's why I repeat, I prefer the individual and astrology, because at the level of mundane astrology, right, you don't need to know astrology only, you also need to study properly all what's going on in the world.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's so easy to find something that confirms what you want to see and to ignore something else. And, you know, so that's why I don't know. Of course, Neptune in Pisces, we can know that it's dissolving, we lose traditional structures. At the same time that Saturn is meeting Pluto. So Saturn meeting Pluto, there is Pluto, the instinctive and wild, powerful energies wanting to shake the structures. Yes, well, this is rather obvious when we look at America. And Saturn, on the other hand, the structures want to become rigid. And there is maybe a temptation for authoritarianism. Mm-hmm. So this, yes, can be seen in the American current history.
I also think there's a level of deception and confusion, and everyone seems to be living in a different or alternate reality. Some people, sort of agree on their mutual realities, but a lot of people are just, at least there's a division. I could say that there's a huge division, and it seems like some people are just probably both sides think the other side is dreaming and delusional.
Yes, it's possible. Yes, of course. Well, I don't know whether there were more conspiracy theories or less before Neptune went into Pisces, but as you talk, yeah, all these conspiracy theories, which are sometimes so incredible, Some, okay, you can think, okay, maybe you give it a second thought, you do a bit of research because maybe, and others are completely, or those who make me really laugh are the flat earth,
Oh,
the flat earth. We're back to Ptolemy.
right. It seems like people are very willing to believe in all kinds of crazy things these days. So
Yeah,
I guess maybe that has something to do with it.
yeah, yeah.
To Pisces. I'm curious this past winter, we had this incredibly intense conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. What was your experience of that? If you don't mind me asking, like your personal experience, was that difficult? Did you find it difficult?
No,
No?
I didn't. And strangely, I should have, because it was a 22-degree Capricorn. I am a 22-degree Cancer rising. So it's just on my descendant. So on principle, and I have Venus in Libra 22-degree as well. So it really impacts my natal chart. And yeah, there is a deep process of transformation going on within me, but it's something very introverted.
Interesting.
And I think I remember I think it's Donna Cunningham, which I have read, mentioned by Stephen Arroyo, with about the Pluto transits, which have such a reputation of being awful, and and everything is destroyed, and you go through terrible times. And she was saying something I really believe, is that actually is because we resist that we suffer. A lot of our suffering is due to no, I don't want the change. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I can understand that, but there's also the understanding that says pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So it's not so much
Yes.
in my perspective that, yeah, I agree with you that if you resist, it becomes suffering, but it doesn't negate the fact that there still might be pain and discomfort.
Yes, yeah. Oh, if we come to this Saturn Pluto, and I say it's very introverted. So it's introverted, and I do my meditation. I look at what's going on within myself, and well, I am 59 now. So I know myself a little bit more than I used to. But yeah, sometimes I find some old resentments welling up. I say, oh, I'm still there. I would like to make them feel how they made me feel, like and all this kind of dark stuff coming up. But well, I don't act out on it. I stay on my own. I breathe. I look at what's going on. I remember that it's not what this kind of energy that I want. So I find a way to let's remember that people are people. They have their own suffering. They are not as bad as I see them. They do their best, and connecting with my own suffering, because precisely when we are in a state of resentment or anger or rage or also guilt, shame, all these difficult energies, behind them is this part of us which is the most vulnerable, and we says, help, I don't know how to deal with that. And then when we connect with this part of us which needs just us to be kind with ourselves and accepting and soothing, can find but all this, for me, with the Saturn Pluto transiting on my descendant, has been mostly within, introverted. I've not, when I was younger, sometimes, I had I couldn't help saying something which offended people, and then people reacted, and then
Well, the reason I asked is because actually it was really, really intense for me, like
yes,
eventually. I felt some major stuff coming up and purging in my chest area and my heart. But also my mom had a really, really difficult time, but I know not everyone did. So I'm just kind of curious to see who did, who didn't. But it was an interesting time, definitely. Actually, it helped me a lot, but it was very painful.
Well, what did it touch in your natal chart?
I mean, at that point, it was trine my moon, and Mercury formed a grand trine.
Yes.
Interestingly, at the same time, I checked my solar arc transits. Uranus was actually opposite my sun, and that did play out with my father. Interestingly enough, I did have some discord with him, and we resolved some issues, but that was at the same time. So I'm not sure. I mean, the trine doesn't seem. I mean, the grand trine seems it would be a good thing, but it was very painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we say a grand trine is a good thing. A grand trine is an easy flowing path. So you can have a strong energy. Oh, there is a trine.
Yeah, and that's what it was just like. It really hit me in my all this like poison. It felt like was coming up into my experience. So, interesting.
Yeah, and maybe it was also combined with other progressions you had, and you can't just look at one particular transit in isolation of the rest.
Right. Exactly. So what do you think about the coronavirus? Do you think it's going to sustain itself, or now that we've had the last Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, it's going to fade out?
Oh, well, I am under the impression that we're going to be sorted soon, in a few months.
Yeah.
That's a global impression, but it's more intuitively that I would say that that's my own perception. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, soon finished.
Because some people have charted the high points, the peak points with actually the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, even more than because there was 3 of them, and they said, and there was like three highs.
Yes, and there are 3. Actually, there were three planets interacting in a very close space. Plus, at some point, there was also the nodal axis, and there was Mars. There were quicker elements. But when you have three planets interacting and conjuncting one after the other, the result is much more powerful than just 2.
Right.
So I would add the Saturn Pluto plus the Jupiter Pluto plus the Jupiter Saturn and this now they separate slowly. And we have Jupiter and Saturn are going to carry on their journey into Aquarius. Pluto stays in Capricorn for a few more years. When will Pluto ingress in Aquarius?
Well, I don't know, but in February of 2022, where America has its Pluto return, so it's only I was going to look this up, but it should be like 4 or 5 years. I guess.
Yeah. So this energy separate. So normally we have the consequences because when you have all this conjunction, it's an intense moment, but it doesn't mean that's just this moment that's intense. It's bang, it starts a wave, and then the wave keeps going. But of course, the most intense moment now we are about to leave it behind. And
yeah, and Mars was also squaring those planets, and Mars is making another square to Pluto exactly on the time of the Great Conjunction with Saturn and Jupiter at 0 degrees Aquarius. So, I mean, that should be interesting. I want to hear your take on all that. What do you think about that?
I just think that you just add a layer of excitation and aggressiveness and intensity to the whole thing, and then you listen to the news.
But what about the the start of the new cycles, multiple cycles all at once with the great conjunction in 0 degrees Aquarius. There's like the 20-year cycle, but then there's also the new 200-year cycle of great conjunctions in air signs. And if we can take it even further, some people say this is the beginning of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree, but wow, it's not very important. But it's not possible to know exactly when the age of Aquarius starts, because by reference of constellations, the constellations, if you look at the skies, they don't have a precise border which says here Aquarius stops, here Capricorn stops, and here Aquarius starts. No, you can. So it's not precise, and it's a transition. But I disagree, because I say the age of Aquarius, the internet is the age of Aquarius. For me, the internet is such a revolution and such a change, and it is so typically Aquarian that for me we are in the age of Aquarius.
Well, that's why, here's my reasoning, because I can definitely see the influence of the age of Pisces, but I can also see simultaneously the age of the influence of Aquarius. So I figure that if the two energies are merging, which they are, I believe, that because we're moving into a new cycle, big cycle of 200 years of air great conjunctions, starting with the age of Aquarius, that the Aquarian energy is becoming more pronounced than the Pisces energy. So that's my argument as to why this would mark the beginning of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. When astrologers, historian study the question in a few centuries, they may agree on some moments, maybe this one.
And then to add to that, in maybe 6 years, I can't remember the exact date, Uranus moves into Gemini and Pluto moves into Aquarius, and that's furthering the air energy. And that'll be a time of great technological, boom, transformation.
Technological or psychic? So I am on the side of the people who say, all right, we have two. There is a technological evolution. For the internet, the robots, everything that is far beyond me, but exists and influences our lives. And I am also observing that more and more we are into psychic development, and that we realize that it's possible to learn to master our minds better, to discover or rediscover all these abilities that we have. And if you go back to the middle of the 20th century, maybe you had a few people who were considered like the crazy ones, who were interested into clairvoyance and occult studies and so on. But now it's much more widespread. And I hope that we are going to become much more able to connect without technology.
Yeah, no, you might be onto something there. And it makes sense with Aquarius, even more than Gemini as far as being psychically connected.
Yeah, Aquarius it's more consistent with the traditional association with Aquarius, but Gemini is still about communication.
Right.
So combine both.
It's a Uranus in Gemini, plus the Aquarian energy, and maybe Pluto and Aquarius will help with that as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. Yeah. Sounds good. I hope that happens.
If this could happen, not only difficult things that make us feel very worried and very anxious, but maybe at some point we see beautiful positive energies coming up, and we are going to look at them and say, you're late, but oof, you're there. Great.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly exciting to think about.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, what are some of the other things that are astrologically interesting to you these days?
Mm.
Are you working on any projects?
Oh, I am writing. People push me to write a book,
Oh.
and because they like my posts on the group or on my blog. I have a blog called Astrological Musings, and people push me to write a book. I started to write a book, but I started to do it the wrong way, because suddenly it all becomes like a heavy duty, and so it was I and then someone told me, but the book, you have it, you know, you just publish your blog posts, you put them all together and you publish. I don't know. Say, okay, that's a good plan. So I am writing a series on I do 12 more posts on the 12 signs of the zodiac to add to the 12 posts I've made about the houses and the 10 posts I've made about the planets before, plus a few chart interpretations, and I publish and then I self-published on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I love writing, and that's my best asset. I think that's what I do best among the different things I do. So that's my project. And what can we do with astrology? I leave the news, and I leave the world going its own way, and I come back to exploring ourselves within, exploring our own psyche, understanding life, this universal principle, archetypal. You were talking about archetypes. The archetypes are eternal, or are they eternal? But they are universal.
Yeah.
So now, or 100 years ago, or 100 years later, they will be the same, or almost the same, because they evolve as well, but slowly. And so understanding how it works, how I feel that I am, and I'm probably not the only one, I am like a child learning how to walk at the level of opening my consciousness and understanding how to deal with life. There are plenty of things that we have an old attitude, and we need a more spiritual attitude, and work with these energies that do exist. So that's creating calm within, and I've talked with, for example, there are people who are worried about money and about having a job and about being able to get an income, and which is perfectly legitimate. And at the same time, the more we connect with the spiritual energies, the more things happen, the synchronicities. So it's possible to be at a certain level of consciousness energy, and at a certain level, you need to make a lot of efforts to find a job and to work hard to get the money, because otherwise it won't happen. And at a different level of vibration, really, you ask and you receive. You find the opportunities come to you. What you need comes to you. You relax the attitude, and the more you relax the attitude, the more you surf the wave, which is also Pisces, Aquarius. Well, Pisces, you surf the waves as well, but in Aquarius you also have the, and we could have a much more trusting and much more harmonious connection with life.
That seems like a very Scorpionic point of view, and I say that because I know you're Scorpio Sun.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm Scorpio Sun and Scorpio North Node, And that's one of the big lessons I have to learn, you know, letting go of that tourist security need for financial security and material possessions and all that, and embrace uncertainty. And that is the way my life is going, whether I like it or not. But yeah, that's very a scorpionic approach to money.
It's possible. But I had a conversation with an astrologer the other day, and we were talking about that, and she told me that she joined a particular website which is renowned enough, and she made her profile there, and suddenly she had plenty of people wanting her to do readings for a very good price. And she was saying, I can't cope, I can't cope, I can't cope, there are too many, stop. And it stopped. and I had this conversation a few times with my brother, who is a carpenter and he's self-employed. He has his own company. And we had this conversation. He told me, yeah, sometimes I think, oh, it would be great if someone called me now. I could do with another job, and it happens. And as a way to promote myself, I've worked very hard over the years to build my Facebook group, for example, to build the following, and I really worked in Capricorn style, you know, very hard work to make things happen, and I realized that the more I relax, I get people who are asking for readings, and sometimes I say, oh no, I can't do more readings because I am mentally tired. I need a rest. I need to breathe. Nothing. And instead of worrying, I say, no, it's time to rest. When I rest, and then I say, okay, I'm ready to do other reading, they come. So my problem is not the marketing and the promotion. It's just about me being able to do a certain amount of reading and be ready to welcome people.
Interesting. Well, I don't have that problem. I haven't been. I would like a few more readings.
Yeah, I wish that I wish that to happen.
Yeah, but
what is your specialty?
I mean, I don't know if I have one yet. I'm a Gemini, so I kind of combine bits of lots of different things. I find it hard to narrow my focus. I like everything I do. But I mean, I guess you could say that I like to make very actionable readings, things that people can walk away with and do something about, instead of just, you know, glorifying their ego. More soul-centered. I like esoteric astrology, evolutionary astrology, astrology, things like that. I'm very spiritual leaning. So things that people can really enhance their lives in a more for their soul's growth.
Yeah. So you're working with the moon nodes in evolutionary astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The moon, Black Moon Lilith, Pluto.
And what was the other thing you said?
Yeah, Black Moon Lilith. What do you think about Black Moon Lilith?
Moon Lilith. You know, I don't. Black Moon Lilith. I don't really. I haven't found it to be useful for my readings.
It's an embarrassing indicator.
Is it?
I found it embarrassing. I use it as a sensitive point, but that's the one I always says, Black Moon Lilith. This one is annoying. We're not sure. Is this a point where you just completely repress what it should mean, and everything that I'm going to say, you are going to say no because you say no to the energy because there is Black Moon Lilith?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Or is it on the other side exacerbated, and so when you talk with a client, then you can quickly find out if they relate to their Black Moon Lilith or not.
I'm just not convinced of its legitimacy yet. I would have to do a lot more study and research on it. But I'm not as experienced as some astrologers. I'm only, like, as far as Western astrology,
Yeah.
which I also studied Vedic at the same time. It's only been like 4 or 5 years for me.
You
So
studied Vedic at the same time. So,
yeah, in my introduction, I wasn't sure
yeah.
which one I wanted to lean more into. And initially I was like, oh, Vedic's really interesting. And I love learning about it. But now I lean more towards Western and tropical. But I still use some of the concepts that I learned through Vedic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a few people. I'm not Gemini enough to go and explore too many fields. I'm scared. I'm more a Scorpio. I say let's remain narrow and dig.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I see that there are people who start studying Vedic. I knew a few who are very passionate and enthusiastic about Vedic astrology. I don't know.
I mean, my take is this on the difference between the tropical and the sidereal zodiac is that the sidereal is based on the stars and constellations, versus tropical is based on something very, very close to home, which is the Earth's rotation around the sun. So
Yes.
and it correlates with that. Tropical relates much more to our personality level. The signs are much more accurate in describing personality in tropical because of that reason. Because whatever's closer is more personal, right? So the stars versus the sun and the earth, it's a different orientation. The tropical's a much closer zodiac. So it relates much more to the personal. I think they're both accurate, but I liked Vedic because of the concepts, of the way they went about thinking about it. It's very different. It's much more sort of flexible, and it's interesting the way they use the way they look at the houses and the spaces between the houses, and the nakshatras are interesting. Anyway, there's a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. How many nakshatras?
There's 27 nakshatras.
27, and they are ordered like the signs.
They are ordered like the signs. Like, yeah, I mean, they go around the zodiac in I can't remember how 3 times 9 is 27. So there's some geometry to it. I'm not 100% clear on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very it's really nice geometry to it.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day I will dive into the nakshatra, the lunar mansions. Huh? Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else that is on your mind, or that?
What else? No, I think the major each time I think it all boils down to we need to know ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to know ourselves. Astrology is a great way, and it's an attractive way because it's attractive for many people. It's a great way. You start with, what's your sun sign? I'm Gemini, I'm Scorpio, I'm Leo, and you start, and then the more you explore, the more you learn to know yourself, and that's really what we need. We need to know ourselves. we need to learn we are. The human condition is strange, we have great powers and we don't master them. We don't master these great powers we have, so these great powers, they do more or less what they want, unless they are manipulated by others, or they do what they want because it's all unconscious, and and, uh, and we've got to learn to ride our own horse, and that's why we need to study astrology and understand how it works, and understand how to deal with all these energies, because it's a way to create peace within ourselves and then share it with others. So that's really important, and that it can be done without astrology, but astrology is a way to.
Astrology is a great way, and that's you know, that a lot of the wise people of old throughout time have said, know thyself above all things, know thyself.
Yeah.
And that was my that's one of the things. I mean, I started out with, you know, like I said, Eastern astrology, but when I went through some deep kind of crisis years ago, and I was like trying to figure myself out, and then I discovered Western astrology, because what was attractive about it was that it pointed me to my greater understanding of myself, and that my North Node was in the first house, so that it's very much, especially in Scorpio, so it was like revealing exactly what I needed to see about myself, which was that I need to discover myself.
Yeah. You start by knowing that you don't know enough.
Yeah. And it was very self-affirming. It was like, I need to figure myself out. Oh, this is why I need to figure myself out, because North Node's in the first house where it's this, you know, self, and that's what it's saying. I need to figure myself out in Scorpio, you know, like really deeply, like occult stuff, secrets, digging deep, psychology, you know, everything feeling. So, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Jean-Marc, really, really good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good to talk with you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, and you as well. And what's your group's name? Just
the Facebook group is Astrological Buzz.
Astrological Buzz, right?
Yeah, and my page is Astro Stories.
Astrostories.com.
No, that's a page on Facebook.
Oh, the page, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, yeah, for my website is Jean-marc-Pierson.com. Just.
Very good. And I don't have a website up yet, but it is in the works. It's just you know, haven't gotten it out there yet, but it's coming. So stay tuned for that. And I have my group, I Love Astrology. And
yes, I joined.
Yeah. And you can always reach me on Facebook, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com, or email me or reach me on Facebook and join my group. And thanks, Jean-Marc. This will be up on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
All right, great. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye-bye.